Welcome to Daily Overdose.
There are some amazing people around that we can learn from today. People who have already braved the storms and come out on top. People who are still alive today. People who started with nothing and ended up with something great. Famous people, not so famous people. Maybe even people you know, but don't know their stories. People who had an early vision and ambition. People who turned their focused dreams into the reality of success.
Life is dull only to dull people. This is true, but it also could have read, life is interesting only to interesting people, or life is successful only to successful people. And what I'm trying to say is that you must first become, mentally, from an attitude standpoint, that which you wish to achieve. A famous restaurateur was being interviewed by a reporter who asked, "When did you become successful?" He replied, "I was successful when I was sleeping on park benches, because I knew what I wanted to do and that I would do it." In short, his attitude had been one of success, of expecting success long before the material, the tangible rewards of success had been earned. But for now, remember that a person must act, look, and because of these things, feel successful before the success he seeks can come.
We must learn from personal experience. Pretty simple. Learn from what happens to you. Take a look back over the last few months. Did you make some mistakes? How could you correct those for the future? Take a look back over the last year. Have you done it right or done it wrong? Let's correct it for the next year.
Don't drown in a sea of your own negativity when you can float on the ocean of life. You are meant to be a wonderful, loving expression of life. Life is waiting for you to open up to it, to feel worthy of the good it holds for you. The wisdom and intelligence of the universe is yours to use. Life is here to support you. Trust the power within you to be there for you.
The moment you start feeling abundant and worthy, you are generating wealth. The moment you're empowered and feel it, you're beginning to step towards your success. The moment you start feeling whole, your healing begins. And when you love yourself and you love all of life, you'll create an equal. Now you're causing an effect. And I think that's the difference between living as a victim in your world, saying, I am this way because of this person or that thing or this experience. They made me think and feel this way. When you switch that around, you become a creator of your world, and you start saying, my thinking and my feeling is changing an outcome in my life. And now that's a whole different game, and we start believing more that we're creators of reality.
This is your moment to shine. And if you're not willing to shine, then step aside. If you're not willing to work, then this is not the place for you. You got to toughen up. You got to look up. You got to build up. If you want it, this is the time to go get it. But you gotta work for it. You got to believe in it. You got to trust in it.
If you put yourself in a new situation, then new genes code for new proteins and build new neural structures and new nervous system structures. Same thing happens to some degree when you work out, right? Because your muscles are responding to the load, but your nervous system does that too. So you imagine that there's a lot of potential you locked in your genetic code. And then if you put yourself in a new situation, then the stress, that's the situational stress that's produced by that particular situation, unlocks those genes and then builds new parts of you. So that's very cool, because who knows how much there is locked inside of you. Okay, so now here's the idea. So let's assume that scales as you take on heavier and heavier loads. That more and more of you get more and more informed because you're doing more and more difficult things, but more and more of you gets unlocked. And so then what that would imply is that if you got to the point where you could look at the darkest things, so that would be the abyss, right? That would be the deepest abyss. If you could look at the harshest things, like the most brutal parts of the suffering of the world and the malevolence of people and society, if you could look at that straight and directly, that would turn you on maximally. And so that's the idea of rescuing your father, because imagine that you're like the potential composite of all the ancestral wisdom that's locked inside of you biologically. But that's not going to come out at all unless you stress yourself, unless you challenge yourself. And the bigger the challenge you take on, the more that's going to turn on. And so that as you take on a broader and broader range of challenges and you push yourself harder, then more and more of what you could be turns on, and that's equivalent to transforming yourself into the ancestral father, because you're like the, what would you call it? You're the consequence of all these living beings that have come before you, and that's all part of your biological potentiality. And then if you can push yourself, then all of that clicks on, and that turns you into who you could be. That's the re-representation of that positive ancestral father. So that's why you rescue your father from the belly of the beast.
Acknowledgement is crucial to beginning. You have to dig deep and face yourself in stark reality. What do you think about yourself? Acknowledge your qualities and your flaws, not what your family and friends think about you. And what do you think? How do you feel about yourself? Objectively look inside yourself. You might think that is an overrated mainstream idea, but I promise you it is an imperative step you must take, and a big problem. Consciousness will take shape only if you start thinking about it. First, you have to understand your virtues and flaws. Then you have to begin to speak about them, not advice-seeking, but stating as facts. By speaking about them, I mean you must stand up and say, hey, this is me, I am this person. And it will hurt. Let's say you were blindfolded for 10 or 15 years. If after many years you choose to remove the blinders, when you open your eyes even the slightest bit, it will hurt as hell. So first you have to acknowledge that opening your eyes will be painful. Most of those who get this far will quit and fail because they fear pain and they fear failure. A lot of what-ifs will appear in front of them, and a lot of possibilities that might lead to failure. So they decide to do nothing, and they stick their heads back in the sand. Will you also do that? I know you won't. You are better than those who choose to be blind. You will keep going. What comes next in the process of recognizing a life that lacks confidence? After the pain, or shall I say during, you will start to recall one by one all the chances you missed, all the possibilities you didn't take, and all the time you wasted. It is important to take these lessons and promise yourself it won't happen again. But don't spend too much time regretting a wasted past. Stay in the present, leave the past behind, and act now in a way to improve your future. Prepare yourself for some further disappointments. You who are starting to see straight will realize the friends around you are not so perfect as you thought they were. You will see their blindness and how they mismanage their lives. Don't start mocking them. Don't tell them how stupid they are because they haven't asked for your opinion. You must know they are not yet ready to open their eyes. This process has to start from within.
You don't achieve worthwhile goals quickly or easily. They take time. They take struggle. They take relentless pursuit day in and day out. That's what it takes. But also, things don't usually fall apart quickly either. At least at first, it's a slow process. A little slip here, a little setback over there, a little wearing down of discipline and will over time. That's the thing. Success and failure are generally slow processes, either slowly building things up or gradually tearing them down. And that's why I say you've got to pay attention. You have to watch. You have to watch every single second, because those seconds, they turn into minutes, and minutes turn into hours, and hours turn into days, and days turn into years. And so that second that just went by, that counted. And so did that second. And so did that one. And in those precious seconds, you were either building or you were decaying. you are either gaining ground or you are losing ground in that second and in every second. Every second counts. So make every second count.
We often have an idea of what we want to bring into our life, have a vision of who we want to be, have a desire. But the biggest thing that's blocking us from stepping into that truth is the belief.
Now, if these negative beliefs are very strong in you, then how can you possibly create a loving, joyous, prosperous, healthy life? Somehow your subconscious beliefs would always be contradicting you and making sure you do not obtain your goals. I find that resentment, criticism, guilt, and fear cause more problems in our bodies and in our experiences than anything else. These feelings come from blaming others and not taking responsibility for our own lives. You see, if we are all responsible for everything that happens in our lives, then there is really no one to blame. Whatever is happening out there is only a mirror of our own inner thinking.
When we have a problem, a difficulty, a struggle that is located inside, and we're looking for the solution outside, someplace outside of ourselves. It would be like going to the doctor and telling him all of your symptoms. And the doctor says, oh boy, you've got a lot of symptoms. And he starts writing out prescriptions. You need a prescription for this symptom, you need a prescription for that symptom. And finally, he gets this 4 or 5, and you go to walk out, and you say, well, I'd like my prescriptions. He said, no, I'll give this one to your mother-in-law, and I'll give this one to your neighbor, and I'll give this one to your daughter, and I'll give this one to your father. I mean, you're the one with the struggles and with the difficulties, expecting somebody else to change or something outside of you to get better in order for you to make your life work is something you have to really take a hard look at. It's in here.
We have to feel love for ourselves and love for life in order for us to have love in our life. And so then to instruct people how to teach their body emotionally how that future could feel like before it's made manifest. If they do it properly, their body as the unconscious mind begins to believe it's living in that future reality in the present moment. And they're beginning to signal new genes in new ways that begins to change their body to look like the event has already occurred.
Yeah. So we need new ways of thinking, new ways of living, and it comes down to something very simple. The most simple is about love. The bottom line, do we love ourselves enough to live our lives in a way that gives our bodies what they need to do what they know how to do really well? Do we love ourselves enough to live and to think in a way that allows the best version of ourselves and the best versions of our families and communities to come forward?
So when you stand in this place of knowing that if this time-space reality has created within you a desire for something, this time-space reality will deliver the goods to you. So when you stand in that knowing and then you couple it with your belief in your righteousness or worthiness to receive it.
When you're putting in a wish and a desire, put it in as if you already have it. I am healthy. I am a good relationship person. I have a great job. What's that? I say, it's like I already have it. And yet most people don't have it. So they'll say, I want a great job. I want a great relationship. I want to be healthy. And I go, make a recording of those words. We just said that. I want to be healthy. Today, right now, Tuesday, we're going to make a recording. I say, now come back in 1 year and let's push the button on that recording. And we come back a year later and it says, I want to be healthy. I go, it's a whole year and you still want to be healthy?
Still don't have it, right?
You didn't say I am healthy. All you're emphasizing, I have a desire to be healthy. I want to be healthy. I have a desire to be healthy. And I go, you can have that desire the rest of your life. You're not going to get healthy. You want to be healthy, you say, I am healthy. But then you look and say, yeah, but in reality, I'm sick. And I go, no. The function of the mind is to take the program and turn it into reality. So if I am sick, but I put a program in, I am healthy, the mind looks, like, well, wait a second, the program is I am healthy, but the body is not healthy, so what's the function of the mind? Create health in the body. It doesn't change the program, it changes the body. And so the idea is this: every time we put a program in, it has to be as if you already have it, in spite of the fact you could be dying of cancer. I go, I am healthy. It sounds kind of weird. And I go, don't worry about it. Just put it on I am healthy, because once it is a program, the function of the mind is to manifest it as reality. Mm-hmm. That's the part. And so my little caveat, you brought it up, I'm emphasizing it, and that was simply this: that whatever you're downloading, you have to say it as if you already have it. Because if you put a future tense on it, I will, I want, I say, if you record that, that means you will always want to have it. Mm-hmm. I will do this. You won't get there. So I just wanted to bring that in, because if we're making a program, then you must make sure it says as if you already have it, in spite of the fact you don't.
Top people look for the good in every situation. They know that it is always there. No matter how many reversals and setbacks they experience, they expect to get something good out of everything that happens to them. They believe that every setback is part of a great plan that is moving them inexorably toward achieving the great success that is inevitable for them. If your beliefs are positive enough, you will seek the valuable lesson in every setback or difficulty. You will confidently believe that there are many things that you have to learn on the road to achieving and keeping your ultimate success. You therefore look upon every problem as a learning experience. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Within every difficulty or obstacle, there is the seed of an equal or greater advantage or benefit." With this kind of an attitude, you benefit from everything that happens to you, positive or negative, as you move upward and onward toward achieving your major definite purpose. There is a law of reversibility in psychology and metaphysics that says you are more likely to act yourself into feeling a particular way than you are to feel yourself into acting. What this means is that when you start off, you may not feel like the great success that you desire to be. You will not have the self-confidence that comes from a record of successful achievement. You will often doubt your own abilities and fear failure. You will feel that you are not good enough, at least not yet. But if you act as if you were already the person you desire to be, with the qualities and talents that you desire to have, your actions will generate the feelings that go with them. You will actually act yourself into feeling the way you want to feel by the law of reversibility. If you want to be one of the top people in your business, dress like the top people, groom like the top people, organize your work habits the way they do. Pick the most successful people in your field and use them as your role model. If possible, go to them and ask them for advice on how to get ahead more rapidly. And whatever advice they give you, follow it immediately. Take action. When you start to walk, talk, dress, and behave like the top people, you soon begin to feel like the top people. You will treat other people like the top people do. You will work the way the top people work. You will start to get the results that the top people get. In no time at all, you will be one of the top people yourself. It may be trite to say fake it until you make it, but there is a lot of truth to it. Your main job in life is to create the mental equivalent within yourself of what you want to realize and enjoy in your outer world. Your focus must be on creating the beliefs within yourself that are consistent with great success you want to be in your outer world. You achieve this by challenging your self-limiting beliefs, rejecting them, and then acting as if they did not exist. You reinforce the development of new life, enhancing beliefs by increasing your knowledge and skills in your field to the point where you feel equal to any demand or challenge. You accelerate the development of new, positive beliefs by setting bigger and more exciting goals in every area. Finally, you act continually as if you were already the person that you desire to be. Your aim is to reprogram your subconscious mind for success by creating the mental equivalent in everything you do or say.
Momentum develops the mindset. Momentum conditions the mind to confidence. Like just moving forward every day, even a small thing. If you just said, every day I'm gonna do 3 things to move my life forward, and you just did those 3 things every single day. Today I'm gonna do these 3 things to move my life forward. It could be sending an email, calling somebody, having that prospect meeting. It could be as simple as like, oh, okay, I'm gonna work towards this goal. I'm gonna finish this presentation. I'm gonna create this thing. Whatever it is for you, like do that thing. Maybe it's like, oh, today I'm gonna work out today. Great, you worked out. Your mind goes, I said I was gonna work out, I worked out. I developed a little more confidence because you were congruent with your intentions. See, action is what makes us congruent with our intentions, right? That old thing you've heard me say, if you've been studying my work for a long time, intention without initiative is just sorry hopes. It really is. Intention without initiative is just sorry hope. You have to apply yourself again. And I know you already know this. Listen, a lot of people watching this, you're already a confident person. Okay, what's the next level of action that will raise you up to the next level of success? What's the next level of action and bold decision making that will change your life? I know you might already be a confident person, so what's your next level of action? Well, Brendon, I already feel confident going up and talking to a person. Great, now go up and talk to 4 people. Good job. Okay, well, Brendon, I already feel good, trying to put out this message. Great, do it again, be more vulnerable. Oh, Brendon, I already feel good, I started the business and I built to this. Great, double the business, let's see you do it. So when you challenge yourself to take actions that are a little bit outside your pay grade, a little bit outside your comfort zone, and you actually follow through, congruence comes in and you go, I set that intention, it was hard, I took the challenge, and I made it happen. That's it. That's really, truly it.
If you can't get beyond your body, and your attention is on your body, then you're matter trying to change matter. If you're thinking about your cell phone and your partner or your kids, none of these are bad, but if you can't get beyond them, they own you. If you're thinking about how much time it's going to take or how much time the meditation is going, you haven't dissociated from the very world of three-dimensional reality to create something differently with. So that process of overcoming ourselves, that process of overcoming is the process of becoming. As an example, people stand on the stage, and they tell their testimonials, their stories at our events, whether it's stage 4 cancer, blindness, deafness, MS, lupus, we've seen just about everything. Parkinson's. So many people say, I really believe that this information or that you could actually create a better life for yourself or you could heal yourself. I always believed that it was true, and I saw the testimonials of other people, I've read the information, I saw the scientific research. I just never believed it could happen to me or that I could do it. Now this is a big moment. This is the moment you come out of the bleachers and you get on a playing field, because in order for that person to prove that their mind can affect their body, they would have to show up every day and do the work. If they don't show up, then they don't believe it's possible. If they do show up every day, they do believe it's possible, and keep showing up every day after a period of time, you start feeling worthy to receive it. And the universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving. So it's the overcoming process that is the becoming process. People who are sick in this work, I can guarantee you with stage 4 cancer that has metastasized to every organ, every tissue, every bone in their body, and they've gotten the diagnosis and the prognosis, I'm sure there were days where they felt fear. And they had to make one of 2 choices, to either do the work or surrender to fear. And they showed up that day, and they overcame their fear a little bit more and surrendered to love. That's a victory. There were days where I'm certain they didn't feel good. They didn't feel physically good, and I know that it was probably hard for them to think greater than how they felt. They couldn't do that if they were still their body. They would have to get beyond their body in order to change, and they showed up that day and they overcame their body a little bit more. And I'm sure there were days where they had self-doubt. In fact, many of them, their disease got worse before it got better, and they could have easily listened to their family and to the voice in their head that said it's not working. But they showed up anyway, and they did the work, and they overcame their doubt that day. And I know there were days where they thought they didn't have enough time because they had children and work and all kinds of obligations, but they made time. And it was the overcoming that actually created the becoming. And so they weren't visualizing anything. They weren't affirming anything. They were changing. Now, many of them would have a great meditation, get up feeling wonderful, feeling like connected to the emotions of their future, and their sleeping patterns got better, had more energy, their pain diminished, but their blood values and their scans were still the same. They didn't say, oh, well, I kind of got a little bit better, but this doesn't work. That would be the old self, returning back to the old personality. They were more concerned about what they still had to change about themselves in order for their health to change. So they realized that many of them, 1 hour of meditation and feeling wonderful, and then spending 15 hours of your remaining day reacting and responding to everyone and everything in your life and believing those thoughts that are just hardwired programs in the brain and acting and behaving like the old self. Genes aren't going to change that way, so all of a sudden now it became practical. I got to get so good at doing this with my eyes closed. I got to do it with my eyes open. Now, this is the big game because you got to be able to self-regulate. And so what became very practical to them is, now I'm going to rehearse how I'm going to be on the Zoom call. Now I'm going to rehearse how I'm going to be with my children, how I'm going to be with my ex. I'm going to monitor my responses. There's got to be a better way to be. Now the game becomes very real, right? And then they review at the end of the day, when did I fall from grace? When did I lose it? When did I go unconscious? Tomorrow's another lifetime. Tomorrow's when I didn't fail. I just went unconscious. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to just work on that one thing. So now they're really working on the process of transformation. It's no longer about their health condition. They're not focused on their health condition. They're focused on change, right? And nothing changes in our life until we change. So when you hear those stories and the person has to really overcome their belief that this could work for everybody else, they just never believed it could work for me. When they get really super aware that the game is about change, and they got to get really good at doing it with their eyes open, and they have to monitor their responses to everyone and everything in their life, because if they don't, the response is actually weakening the organism. They got to catch their thoughts, because that thought that they let slip by could actually knock their brain and body out of homeostasis and turn on the stress response. So now the game changes now, and it takes an enormous amount of energy, and it takes an enormous amount of awareness. And it's not easy, and if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But you ask that person who stands on the stage, that's the 4-minute mile, about their disease. They'll tell you two things. My disease was my greatest teacher. They'll tell you that. And you'll ask them, where's the disease now? Where is it? They'll say, it's in the old person. I'm somebody else. They didn't visualize anything. They didn't affirm anything. They just kept practicing overcoming. And it's the overcoming process that actually affects the becoming process.
What determines the difference in human actions? Throughout my life, I have passionately sought the answer to these questions. One thing is clear to me. Human beings are not random creatures. Everything we do for a reason. We may not be aware of the reason consciously, but there is undoubtedly a single driving force behind all human behavior. This force impacts every facet of our lives, from our relationships and finances to our bodies and brains. What is this force that is controlling you even now and will continue to do so for the rest of your life? Pain and pleasure. Everything you and I do, we do either out of our need to avoid pain or our desire to gain pleasure. So often, I hear people talk about changes they want to make in their lives, but they can't get themselves to follow through. They feel frustrated, overwhelmed, even angry with themselves because they know they need to take action, but they can't get themselves to do it. There is one elementary reason. They keep trying to change their behavior, which is the effect instead of dealing with the cause behind it. Understanding and utilizing the forces of pain and pleasure will allow you once and for all to create the lasting changes and improvements you desire for yourself and those you care about. Failure to understand this force dooms you to a future of living in reaction like an animal or a machine. Perhaps this sounds like a complete oversimplification, but think about it. Why don't you do some of the things you know you should do? After all, what is procrastination? It's when you know you should do something, but you still don't do it. Why not? The answer is simple. At some level, you believe that taking action in this moment would be more painful than just putting it off. Yet, have you ever had the experience of putting something off for so long that suddenly you felt pressure to just do it, to get it done? What happened? You changed what you linked pain and pleasure to. Suddenly not taking action became more painful than putting it off. A man who suffers before is necessary, suffers more than is necessary. What keeps you from approaching that man or woman of your dreams? What keeps you from starting that new business you've been planning for years? Why do you keep putting off that diet? Why do you avoid completing your thesis? Why haven't you taken control of your financial investment portfolio? What prevents you from doing whatever it takes to make your life exactly as you've imagined it? Even though you know that all these actions would benefit you, that they could definitely bring pleasure to your life, you fail to act simply because in that moment you associate more pain to doing what's necessary than missing the opportunity. After all, what if you approached that person and they rejected you? What if you tried to start that new business but failed and lost the security you have in your present job? What if you started a diet and went through the pain of starving yourself, only to gain the weight back eventually anyway? What if you made an investment and lost your money? So why even try? For most people, the fear of loss is much greater than the desire for gain, which would drive you more. Keeping someone from stealing the $100,000 you've earned over the last 5 years, or the potential of earning $100,000 in the next 5. The fact is that most people would work much harder to hang on to what they have than they would to take the risks necessary to get what they really want from their lives. The secret of success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. If you do that, you're in control of your life. If you don't, life controls you. If we link massive pain to any behavior or emotional pattern, we will avoid indulging in it at all costs. We can use this understanding to harness the force of pain and pleasure to change virtually anything in our lives, from a pattern of procrastinating to drug use. How do we do this? Let's say, for example, you want to keep your children off drugs. The time to reach them is before they experiment and before someone else teaches them the false association that drugs equal pleasure. My wife and I decided that the most powerful way to make sure our kids would never use drugs was to cause them to link massive pain to drugs. We knew that unless we taught them what drugs were really about, someone else might convince them that drugs were a useful way of escaping pain. If we fail to direct our own associations to pain and pleasure, we're living no better than animals or machines, continually reacting to our environment, allowing whatever comes up next to determine the direction and quality of our lives. Our behavior, both conscious and unconscious, has been rigged by pain and pleasure from so many sources. Childhood peers, moms and dads, teachers, coaches, movie and television heroes, and the list goes on. You may or may not know precisely when programming and conditioning occurred. It might have been something someone said, an incident at school, an award-winning sports event, an embarrassing moment, straight as on your report card, or maybe failing grades. All of these contributed to who you are today. I cannot emphasize strongly enough that what you link pain and pleasure to will shape your destiny. As you review your own life, can you recall experiences that formed your neuro-associations and thus set in motion the chain of causes and effects that brought you to where you are today? What meaning do you attach to things? If you're single, do you look upon marriage wistfully as a joyous adventure with your life mate? Or do you dread it as a heavy ball and chain? As you sit down to dinner tonight, do you consume food matter? Of factly as an opportunity to refuel your body? Or do you devour it as your sole source of pleasure? Men, as well as women, are much oftener led by their hearts than by their understandings. Though we'd like to deny it, the fact remains that what drives our behavior is instinctive reaction to pain and pleasure, not intellectual calculation. Intellectually, we may believe that eating chocolate is bad for us, but we'll still reach for it. Why? Because we're not driven so much by what we intellectually know, but rather by what we've learned to link pain and pleasure to in our nervous system. It's our neuro-associations, the associations we've established in our nervous systems, that determine what we'll do. Although we'd like to believe it's our intellect that really drives us, in most cases, our emotions. The sensations that we link to our thoughts are what truly drive us. Many times we try to override the system. For a while we stick to a diet. We finally pushed ourselves over the edge because we have so much pain. We will have solved the problem for the moment. But if we haven't eliminated the cause of the problem, it will resurface. Ultimately, in order for a change to last, we must link pain to our old behavior and pleasure to our new behavior and condition it until it's consistent. Remember, we will all do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. Going on a diet and overriding our pain in the short term by pure willpower never lasts simply because we still link pain to giving up fattening foods. For this change to be long-term, we've got to link pain to eating those foods so that we no longer even desire them, and pleasure to eat more of the foods that nourish us. People who are fit and healthy believe that nothing tastes as good as thin fields, and they love foods that nourish them. In fact, they often link pleasure to pushing the plate away with food still on it. It symbolizes to them that they're in control of their lives. The truth is that we can learn to condition our minds, bodies, and emotions to link pain or pleasure to whatever we choose. By changing what we link pain and pleasure to, we will instantly change our behaviors. With smoking, for example, all you must do is link enough pain to smoking and enough pleasure to quitting. You have the ability to do this right now, but you might not exercise this capability because you've trained your body to link pleasure to smoking, or you fear that stopping would be too painful. Yet, if you meet anyone who has stopped, you will find that this behavior changed in one day. The day they truly changed what smoking meant to